My name is Barry Horn, and I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight, the small number who are in the room here at Moorabbin and the somewhat larger number online. And a special welcome to anyone who is here for the first time or the first time after a long interval. So welcome to everybody. But tonight we've got a very interesting program. Our speaker is Davinia Upshall, yes, I said it right, who I shall introduce in a moment. At 8 o'clock we will have a break and draw the raffle. Those of you who are at home will miss out on the raffle. Then we're going to hear from David, our president, to give a report, and something new. Michael Adams is got a segment called Show and Tell about your passion. So I'm looking forward to that. That's something different. And then Bert Ehrlich is going to tell us what's been happening with iHelp, and we'll finish the meeting formally at 9 o'clock, and some people will then go to Fong's Chinese restaurant for some food and beverage, but the question and answer session continue as long as Bert's happy to be here and field the questions, but that might continue after we formally close the meeting and stop the recording. So that's what's ahead of us tonight. Now, our guest speaker is Davinia Upshall, and she wants to make her presentation rather interactive. So she will ask questions, but also invites anyone who wants to ask questions or make a comment to do so as you go. Those of you who are online, you should know how to put an electronic hand up. If you don't, you should study the Zoom screen. You move your mouse down to the bottom, you'll find an electronic hand that you can bring up. And of course, remember to keep your microphones muted, excepting when you're actually using them. So with that, I'd like to introduce Davinia. Davinia's a very experienced business coach with a dynamic 20-year career spanning corporate finance, strategy and innovation roles in leading global firms like Dyson, Virgin and Lloyds Banking Group. In addition, she's served 15 years in the military reserve with the rank of captain, and she also has been supporting and coaching international sporting teams, including shooting. It's a fairly diversified background. But in her presentation tonight, she will share insights on how MelbPC user group can adapt to remain relevant with their members by continuously evolving their customer value proposition and delivering lasting value over time. If anyone didn't understand what that is, then you've come to the right place, because you'll very soon find out what it's all about. So with that, Davinia, we welcome you and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Barry, and thanks to everyone who's in the room. So, well, firstly, thank you very much for inviting me along to be part of your monthly meeting this month. I really appreciate the invite. Thanks to everyone in the room and also those that are joining us online. So, just to outline then, like Barry introduced, I'm going to talk to you about customer value proposition, and the title of the presentation is Beyond Survival. So how do you, or how can you use customer value proposition to keep yourselves thriving as the environment changes. And as I say, that's through developing a really strong customer value proposition and knowing how to evolve it over time. So I thought I would start. So interestingly, earlier today, I thought, hang on, what's going to be my opening kind of thing, right? So I thought, why don't so I was trying to think about, you guys are a technological group, and I'm not very technological minded. I'm more probably creative and more focused on people and human connection and customer value proposition. So what I decided to do was I thought I would ask ChatGPT what my customer value proposition is. So I wanted to test how much information it knows about me. So first of all, I'll let you know then what my value proposition is as a business coach. So this is what ChatGPT came up with. So empowering small and medium-sized business owners to achieve growth and resilience through strategic insights, hands-on coaching, and a passion for community development. With a unique blend of corporate finance experience, military leadership, and international sports coaching experience, Davinia provides actionable solutions to help businesses thrive, unlocking potential and fostering sustainable success. So I don't know what you guys think, but I actually thought that was quite good for a computer to be able to come up with that for fairly limited information about me. I was pretty pleased with that, and I might actually use that in the future. So what is customer value proposition? So does anyone in the room or online, has anyone done anything about customer value proposition, or could they hazard a guess as to what it might be if I asked you to define it? No? Yep. Oh, sorry, we've got a taker at the back, please. Yeah, if you can share.
I should have kept my hand in my pocket. Is that coming through? Well, value proposition is what you are offering to your customer that is going to be of value. I think it's probably that simple. But
Yeah.
well, I hesitate to quote McDonald's, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. But their value proposition is basically to entertain the kids for a few minutes while you have some cheap food.
Yeah. Thanks for that, David. I'm not sure if everyone online heard that, so I'll just maybe repeat it through my microphone. That David said value proposition is the way that we provide value to other people. So you can think of it as yourself as an individual. What do you do to provide value to other people? You know, why do other people want to hang out with you? Why do they want to deal with you in business, or what do they want to learn from you? And David cited McDonald's as being a great example of customer value proposition, which I would agree it is. You know what you're going to get, and you know that it's going to be the same every single time, and you know that it's affordable food for the family, and the kids are kept entertained whilst the family's being fed. So I think that's pretty great identification of customer value proposition. Yeah, exactly. So whatever store you go to, consistency, always the same. And have they evolved over time? So I'd say yes, they definitely have. And we've seen innovations. So when we talk about innovation, this is just a sideline slightly, but when we talk about innovation, we usually talk either about product innovation, process innovation, or business model innovation. So McDonald's, yeah, they've definitely innovated their product offering over the time with the likes of McCafe. I know in certain cultural markets they offer different food offerings, and yeah, they will have adapted probably their processes and their business model definitely over the time that they've been operating a very successful business. So great, thanks. So that's a quick introduction to the topic of what is customer value proposition. I'm going to go through, over the next half an hour or so, I'll go through in more depth about the importance of customer value proposition and getting it right as an organisation. And I'll go through a model that you can use to help, or that organisations can use, or even individuals can use it actually, to help you understand a way of thinking that helps you to develop your customer value proposition. And you can use it right from a single conversation where you think the person that you're going to help is a customer. If you see them as a customer, you can kind of analyse them using the tool and understand how best to help them. But equally, you can develop it out across a number of factors to do it as an organisation, to be able to transform an organisation into something that's really great. So, thank you. Okay, so I'll just talk a little bit more about myself. I won't take too long doing this, but it is kind of interesting, the story of how I've got to where I've got to, I guess, and hopefully my story helps to qualify that I've got the right experience to talk on the subject. So, like Barry said in the introduction, so I came from a rural background, fairly sizable family. I'm the middle one of 5 siblings. On both sides, both my parents had lots of cousins, as the grandparent generation was quite a large family. So I grew up very much in a community. So a community where it was safe, it was comfortable, there were always people to talk to, and I really thrived in that. And that's the way that I see the future of humanity thriving, is through community. And I think given technological advances and stuff over time, what I see happening in the market is that people are becoming quite individualized, and I think that's going to be detrimental. And so I've got a real passion for building community. So over the last 20 or 30 years, I've had a very successful corporate career across a number of well-known brands. I've actually worked across lots of different industry sectors, so I've built quite a lot of business acumen. So I originally trained, actually my first job was at Dyson. I had a graduate training program, so I was super lucky because Dyson was a really interesting company, privately owned by James Dyson, and it technological company who were really trying to break barriers, and did something, and again, something very innovative in the product innovation, how they changed the vacuum cleaner from a bag, from using, from a bag that stuffed up and was a pain. So from a customer's pain, which we'll go on to later, James managed to develop the dual cyclone technology, and made the whole future of vacuuming completely different to how it was, I guess, post 1992 or something, when he first started working on it. So I joined Dyson after I graduated in 2000, and it was only 7 years old then. So it was a fairly sizable company across European and operated in European markets. They did also operate via a subsidiary. It wasn't a subsidiary, it was a partnership in Australia. A guy called Ross Cameron had the partnership, and they also had a small market in Japan. But they have grown exponentially since I worked there, because they launched into the US and into the Chinese market, which is by far their biggest market. So yeah, super lucky. So Dyson. I also worked at Virgin, which again privately owned, but quite a contrast in the entrepreneurial, I guess, character of James Dyson versus Richard Branson. So James is quite insular. He's a designer. He's very much focused on the product, actually the product and the innovation side of things. Whereas Richard, completely the opposite. He's really focused on people, and he's really focused on outcomes, and he's really focused on how do you leverage as many resources as you can to have positive outcomes in whatever it is you're doing. So that was another great learning for me. And then from there, I've worked across financial services, I've worked across non-profit disability sector, and I've done quite a lot of retailing as well. So I've worked in fashion retailing and DIY retailing, and in FMCG at Coles as well. So that was a kind of a 20-year career, qualified as an accountant. So I've got a very analytical and sort of numerical background. But that didn't really suit my natural skill set. I was quite creative. And so I was really lucky at the point that I worked at Lloyds Banking Group. It was just after the GFC. I was able to transition into strategy and kind of more process work, because during the GFC, Lloyds Banking Group had been asked to rescue another financial institution. And then post that, the Competition Commission said that they were too big to trade as one combined entity. So they needed to create a spin-off bank to be launched on the stock exchange or sold. And so I had the opportunity to work on creating that spin-off bank. So I was I sort of kind of headed up the retail planning division of that, and set out all the business processes and created the strategy for that new bank. So then, like Barry said, in addition to my corporate career, I had a military career. So I started off in Army Reserves in my early 20s, and I reached the rank of captain. But I had a very interesting military career, because although I did general training, I was actually really good at rifle shooting. And I found that out when I was a teenager. So when I was 12 years old was the first time I went on a rifle range. I entered the competition when I was 13 and I won it. And from there, kind of my rifle shooting career took off. So when I was 18, I was selected to represent Great Britain in rifle shooting in the junior team. And then after that, I decided that I was still competing, but I really wanted to give back. So I went into coaching. So I kind of developed a sports coaching, I guess you'd call it a sports coaching formula, I suppose, which I really just developed over time, but kind of reading and studying since then, kind of understand the principles that are written, like probably could have used if I hadn't have just adopted my own. But it was all about goal setting. It's all about like aiming to be the best, and how do you get there? And how do you get there through making really small marginal changes over time to be really, really great. And then once you've got that formula, you can kind of cookie cutter that with all the new people that come in. So over a period of about 12 years, I actually developed 8 young shooters who went on to represent Great Britain. And our best trophy, which is the picture at the bottom, was that amazing trophy. It's called the Arthur Clarke Shield, and we won that for long range matches. So for that team of young people there, who I think are all under probably all under 16 years old. So they competed at 900 and 1,000 yards and came first in that competition. And I think we won that maybe 2 or 3 times, which was really great. So yeah, that's a bit of my story, and I guess what qualifies me then to be a business coach. And so in my business coaching, it is all about growing organisations to be successful, but I always do that with the slant of community and the slant of making a positive social impact if I can. So that's something that I'm a big proponent for. So today's workshop or presentation, goals. So you guys will learn to identify and articulate what makes your organisation unique. Learn how to understand your customers and their perception of value. So it's not about what you perceive as the leaders of the organisation or the members of the organisation as such around what the value is. It's what the target customer perceives as value and really gets value from. And understanding the benefits of getting your value proposition right. And we'll talk about that in a little while. Okay, so why is understanding your value proposition important for ongoing success? So I've tried to, there are many reasons, but I've tried to sort of like distill that down into 3 points. So I heard this in a podcast actually, and it's a really great kind of succinct line. Value proposition done right identifies an organisation as a solution provider versus a product mover. And so what that means is that many organisations will start from somebody's got a product idea or somebody is skilled in delivering a service. So if you think about maybe trades, people are skilled in their trade and they decide to start their own business. That is not, I mean, that's delivering a service, but it's not really thinking about value proposition and what makes them stand out in the crowded market that is today. So back in the day when we were community minded, we had small towns and there was maybe one butcher, one baker, one candlestick maker. Everything worked because everyone knew that that's where they would go to that one provider and they'd get the services. And actually quality of service and customer value proposition was less important in those days probably, and consumers would have suffered. But now in today's crowded and competitive market, where there are 5 bakers on the street down the road, or you can get your bread at the supermarket or whatever, why are people going to come to you for their products and services or their club memberships when there are so many other places that they can go to? I've kind of touched on it, but it's also the reason why customers buy from you over competitors. So think about, if you think about the MelbPC user group or the Creatives Collective, what is that? That's actually, it's a group of people that come together to help each other. But if you're thinking about it from attracting new members, what are those members going to be looking for, and what are the alternatives? So there are many other clubs and societies, or even things like going to the cinema or watching Netflix or whatever. All of those things compete for that entertainment time. So that's really what you've got to compete against as an organisation, is all the other entertainment or learning or community organisations that are out there. And that's why it's really important to understand your value proposition, because that's going to help you to understand how to stand out from the crowd. And then finally, a great value proposition keeps customers returning. So we all know that returning members and returning customers are the easiest way to do business, I guess. So if you are a shop or you're a provider of services, if you can keep your regular customers happy and they return, that's far easier than trying to attract new customers, and far less expensive, I guess. So you've got to think about it from that lens as well. But just at that point, because I've done quite a lot of talking now, I'm just wondering if there are any questions out in the room or online. No? Okay, all right, we'll continue. So the other thing, I guess, with having a really great customer value proposition, or really understanding what your customer value proposition is that it serves as a foundation for your strategy as well. And it serves for things like customer engagement, overall market positioning, how you do your marketing, like all the things that are part of your organization should really be driven out of who the target customer is and what the value proposition for that customer, is. It makes doing business much, much easier. So what I wanted to do next, actually, is given what I've just talked about, before I move on to the next slide, I actually want to ask the room or people online, can somebody think of an organisation that offers a really great customer value proposition that we know that we're all really clear on? Anyone got any examples? Bunnings. Yeah, great, Bunnings. Bunnings is amazing. Mind you, it is almost a monopoly in Australia, which is really interesting. But yeah, well, Bunnings sausage sizzle. So I actually last weekend or the weekend before, I was at the Bunnings sausage sizzle for my son's school. Did a roaring trade. I couldn't believe it. That's something that's not really in the culture in England, is to have a sausage sizzle. So that was quite an eye opener for me. I think we made something like, it took like $5,000 or $6,000 or something just for the one day. Quite incredible. Yes. Yeah, actually that is right. Yeah, so for those people online, Kirsten made the point that Bunnings is great, or the sausage sizzle is great, because it gets the intergenerational positioning right. It's actually a brand that appeals to everyone, no matter what age, right from a really young child all the way up through to, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So the Bunnings staff are various age groups.
Yep.
There's a lot of old tech knowledge at Bunnings,
Yep.
and then there's the younger people kind of interacting, and yeah, we need more of that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And thanks for raising that one. That's probably one of the star examples, actually, of an organisation in Australia that's done a great job with customer value proposition, appealing to a mass market. Yeah, so.
Lately, they have morning breakfast for tradies.
Yep.
I think once a month.
Yep.
And it's free for them.
Yep.
In the morning.
It's incredible. It's and an incredible loss leader as well. So that obviously costs Bunnings, but what that does is it attracts a huge number of tradies to come and buy. And that's actually something else that I'm astounded, being a business coach and working with tradies, because interestingly, coming from Europe, you'd have trade suppliers, and most people would buy from trade suppliers, and it would be priced lower. And I know that Bunnings do have their trade discount, but I was actually really surprised at the way that many tradies will shop at Bunnings, and they'll go job to job as well. So they'll go in the morning before they start their days. They're not carrying stock, they're not having a warehouse with stock, and that really adds to the value proposition and the appeal of Bunnings to that trade sector. So they've obviously thought really well about all the different people that they want to appeal to, and they've got it right, and it's strong. So thanks very much to the audience for the participation. That was a great conversation. So I should have asked this first, but failed value proposition examples. So think about some great products and services that we have had in the past. We've actually seen this a lot over the last 20 years, really amazing organisations, both across retail sector, service sectors, technology, that have been incredibly successful that you never would have thought you'd seen the end of, and their lives ended very quickly. And actually, I think a statistic is that something like, so for the ASX, the average listing for the ASX used to be something like 74 years or something, and now it's dropped down to about 20 to 30, which is quite interesting. So what that tells us is organizations are failing to adapt and offer their customers what they need. And I think that's because in recent times things change much more quickly than they ever did in the past. So these are some great examples of failed value propositions. So if you think about Kodak, that's probably the most well-known story, that Kodak had the lead on photography equipment, what would you call it, printing and everything, and because they failed to adapt to the need for digital, an amazing company failed. Yeah, David, did you want to?
I just like to comment on that slide. I think the first three totally failed because they failed to adapt.
Yep.
I think probably Blockbuster were caught in a corner that they couldn't get out of, but Netflix did manage to get out of that corner.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And they did the transition very well. You missed out Xerox on there.
Yep.
We're not a computer company, they said.
Yep.
We're a copier company.
Yep.
Yeah,
and that's really interesting that you raised that about not being a computer company, because if you think about other brands that have existed for a while now, I mean, Microsoft's done a great job of adapting from where they started in the 1980s to now with Azure and 365, and I think they own ChatGPT now, don't they? So they're really moving and adapting over time to the changing market. Now, adapting over time doesn't mean that you necessarily have to stop selling your original products and services. Like we talked about before, you can have product innovation, but you can also have business model innovation or process innovation. So, yeah, Barry, do you want to grab the?
IBM are not what they used to be either.
Oh, did you want to say that again?
I said IBM.
Yeah, that's right. IBM.
They were the very first PCs. In fact, we designed a personal computer was defined as being an IBM compatible to distinguish it from Apple. But exactly.
Yeah, that's quite right. Yeah.
One of the things that Bunnings and other people do is not only talk to their own customers, they provide information or support for the community as a whole. They'll host gardening groups from Probus clubs and stuff like that. And that's one of the things that bothers me about MelbPC. We used to have when the Age had a green guide many years ago, there was always a column written by George Scarbeck or someone from MelbPC where you're offering information for the community at large. Mm-hmm. And that does a good thing for your profile and makes people more interested in the club. But I don't think we do that. We provide support to our members, but we don't talk to the community. Which might help them decide they want to be members.
Look, I don't think that you are the only people that don't do that, and it's really interesting because I think it's been human nature, especially over the last 10 years, probably the impact of COVID hasn't helped, where people really have kind of sort of gone back into their shell. They've kept themselves more isolated, and I think as well now we're driven much harder. There are so many things impacting us. I read a stat the other day about how children back in the 1980s had, I don't know, maybe 10 to 15 kind of things that they had to deal with every day, whereas the kids today have got hundreds of things flying at them from all directions that they've got to process. So it is really interesting. But I think the future is going to be, if you can adapt and you can move back to being community-minded and being human-centred and offering great value proposition, that those are the organisations like we've talked about with Bunnings, and there are other ones that will be the leaders. So
in the 1970s, I was a member of an Apex club, which was a young men's service club, and they were very strong at one stage. And over time, society changed, and women were sort of joining the workforce much more. So the idea where the man was out doing things and the family was supporting it, they changed it and so that women could join as well. That doesn't sort of wouldn't have suited my family because my wife's got kids to look after, so I'm a member of the club with other women and she's not. So they let women. And then because of numbers, they changed the age limit, from 40 to 50 to 55.
Yep.
And so it ceased to be a young men's.
Oh, okay.
It ceased to be a men's service club, then it ceased to be a young one.
Yep.
So it became just a straight out competitor with Lions and Rotary and Kiwanis, and there just wasn't space for it.
Yeah.
So there's a few clubs still around, but it's just
well,
a shadow of what it used to be.
I think the clear analysis there is, and I know we've had social, many social changes over the last 50 years, some good, some bad, and I think women's rights great, but it has disrupted the social kind of model that was fairly successful, let's say. But I think that the story is that we have to then adapt further. So then you have to adapt again. And I think what's really interesting is that, like you talk about the Apex Club, I think they probably failed or diminished because they didn't have the customer value proposition right. So they started to try to become all things to all people to try to save themselves. Whereas, the successful organisations managed to avoid that. It's very tempting, but they managed to avoid it and they managed to stay more niche and more focused and more targeted. Yeah.
I'm a life member, but I think I'll live longer than the organisation.
There we go. Thank you. Do we have, so Peter Carpenter on Zoom, did you want to contribute something or ask a question?
No, I was just raising my hand for Kirsten. He was testing.
Okay, brilliant. All right, thanks for testing. Thank you. I mean, that's the thing. So thanks. I was going to ask, are there any other examples that people can think of across the community where organisations have diminished and failed? And we've seen it in retail, but I think we're definitely seeing it now with the likes of the Apex Club. I think we'll see it with the likes of the bowling clubs. Actually, rifle shooting is a really good example of like a sporting sector that was really strong. And for a couple of reasons now, the cost of ammunition, the cost of shooting, the time or whatever, that's starting to diminish now, unless young people are coming into the sport because we don't have that funnel that feeds them in. And then of course we've got the social aspect of that as well, with many governments trying to ban firearms and stuff. So lots of reasons. Yeah, thanks, David.
You mentioned bowling clubs. I'll just sort of interject there that my local bowling club is actually branching out and doing other activities. And I sort of walk past and think, good on them.
Yep.
It's really good. But going back to what Barry said about the Green Guide, that's an interesting one too. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Barry, because the Green Guide obviously just isn't a thing anymore.
Yep.
So from that point of view, it's kind of pointless. But what we should be doing, and which I will start looking into, well, I'm already kind of doing it, is getting out there in the social media and all those sorts of things, which is the new avenue for such things.
Yep.
Maybe with a bit more of a just sharing knowledge for the sake of sharing knowledge kind of aspect as well.
Yep.
And I think Barry wants to counter that.
Yeah.
No, if we're seriously considering communicating with the community in that way, there's a lot of local newspapers who would, and one could syndicate it to all of them. And in Whitehorse, the local newspapers are no longer on paper. It's electronic.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But they're still there, and there's the Burwood Bulletin, which.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of local
news outlets.
News outlets, magazines that would be pleased to have that.
Yeah, I think
contribution.
So. I think definitely. And I think as well, you've got a whole community. So more importantly than the news outlets wanting some contribution, actually more importantly, you've got a huge market out in the community of new members that are looking for something of interest or something to do with their time or something to be involved in. Like people do want to be involved in community, but they're not sure where to go and how to do it. And that's, you know, that's an opportunity for you guys.
I really think it is.
Yeah.
We need to sort of think about what we're going to communicate and who's going to do it and how we're doing it,
Yeah.
and offer it round.
Yeah.
I think that they would
Yeah.
very much like to have it.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think getting yourself organised and having a reason and having an output is definitely great. Yeah. Do we have some more questions online? Oh yeah, great. Did you want to read them out, Kirsten? Yeah.
Just reading from the chat. John, Mark Anderson saying there's an East Sider News with significant coverage of the East. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Yeah, the East Side News covers Whitehorse and Manningham, and I think beyond that they've got a big reach.
Yeah.
And I've put stuff in it before, and they've got a big reach.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's definitely something to think about. That's a channel for reaching your core customer with the value proposition once you've defined what the value proposition is going to be. Yep. All right. Well, thanks very much. Thanks for that. Oh, we've got more. We've got more.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Davinia,
Yeah.
you look like a young person.
Not that young.
And you identified community and the opportunity to give back, which is a big thing for a lot of us, I think. Members helping members is our kind of key thing that we say. And we've got these wonderful premises and we have a wonderful community. It's just that kind of we're dying off. Last month we had 6 members pass away. Their average age, I think Harry worked out to be not average age, average membership length was over 30 years.
Yep.
And actually that month, nobody joined.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Yep.
And yet those two things that you identified that matter to you, community and giving back. So how do we reach the likes of you?
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I can tell you until I met you, Kirsten, that I didn't know that the Melbourne PC user group or the Creators Collective existed. So that's something to let you know, I guess, that I live just maybe a kilometre down the road. I didn't know it existed. And so, yeah, that means probably your message is not getting out there to your core customer if I'm your core customer. So then, I mean, that's a whole other theory, which we can talk about another time. But that's about really identifying who your core customer is, or customer groups, you know, because Bunnings, we just discussed, doesn't have one core customer, it has a few groups that it focuses on, with separate value propositions, by the way. So the easiest thing, I guess, to describe, the simplest way is to say, understand who your customer is, then you can understand where they hang out, and then you can go to meet them where they hang out, and whether that be face-to-face, digital, through the news, or whatever. Those are just the channels. It's understanding the importance of knowing where they are and how to reach them first, yeah.
Our customers at the moment are our members.
Yep.
Our potential customers
Yep.
are the ones that are not.
And we'll talk about that actually in a while, because one of the things when we talk about maybe starting to think about defining what your customer value proposition is and who your customer is, the easiest place to start is with the members, by the way, because you're all here. You are all customers. You are all contributing members. And so start with the members and then allow that kind of force that you create with the members to start rolling out, and you know, and it will happen. So that's how community happens. That's how community builds. People are doing stuff. They talk about how great it is. Other people say, "Oh, that sounds really great," and then they come along. It's really getting back to basics, and we've lost a lot of that recently with the internet and all this crazy news and YouTube channels and all the rest of it. So.
We recognise, I think, that the demographic that we have now with our membership needs to change.
Yeah.
It's not sustainable into the future.
Of course.
But before one gets too despondent about that, one has to see that all the mainstream churches have got the same problem with demographic.
They do.
And also the service clubs.
Yeah.
And I was staggered that even Rotary is having the same sort of problem.
And that is really, they need to adapt. This actually goes back to nature. If you are not suited to your environment, you have to adapt in order to survive in your environment. So should we use that as a point?
But I was
if
going to
that's
say
okay, Barry?
it all indicates, however, that the generations behind us are not getting involved in community.
Well, maybe that's
in the same way.
in the same way
that we did, whether it's MelbPC or churches or community services or anything.
It might
else.
be that they are getting involved in community, but it's not. The communities have adapted, or there are new communities that have come in that are more appealing. But that's not to say that you can't evolve yourself to be more appealing to a different generation.
Well, if you look at, say, volunteering in Australia, it'd be interesting to find out what the demographic is of volunteers. But it's predominantly our generation, not the younger ones.
Well, maybe someone can go find the facts and we can talk about that the next time. Should we move on then to what I wanted to move on to? Let's just go quickly into great value proposition examples. And actually, I wish that, because I think these are all new, so I wish that I'd actually found some that had adapted. But let's see if we can actually think about some that have adapted as a group. So great value proposition examples, right? So I've just put a few here, and I tried to think of like technical ones. So Apple, been amazing in the phone sector. Canva as well, a great value proposition that came really from nothing. Netflix, we talked about. Blockbuster wasn't able to adjust, probably mostly because of the investment in bricks and mortar and all those DVDs that they had. But Netflix was able to identify that there was an opportunity in the market and come in and fill it. So that's really interesting. And then I've got the Thermomix, because again, that's something that's really, Thermomix over any other food processor, I guess, is probably a shining light as far as customer value proposition goes. And what I wanted to draw out was customer value proposition statements. So Apple, their customer value proposition statement is that the experience is the product. Okay, so if you start thinking about that, it's super simple. And what they mean is that they're aiming to provide a premium, high quality, innovative and user-friendly technology product that services that enrich the lives of their customers. And I think we can all agree that really, most people go for an iPhone now. I know Google and stuff are coming in with some great alternatives now, but the iPhone has led the market because it is the experience. Users are now living their life through their phone. They use it as a camera. They use it, not only to just talk to people or whatever anymore, but they use it as a camera. They use it as a personal, I guess, computer to research stuff and whatever. And we're reliant on it. Like if I lost my phone, I would be in quite a lot of difficulty for a few days until I got myself back up and running again. Canva as well, amazing. Anyone can be a designer. That was what Mel Perkins set out to do when she started Canva. So originally she tried to create something that could be used by schools and education facilities so that they didn't have to pay for expensive marketing. But that turned into a product that now half the world uses to do their own content creation, which is just incredible at a really low fee. Businesses and organisations just wouldn't have had access to that in the past. They would have had to go to marketeers and get them to create their content. Did you want to say something, Kirsten? I saw you picking up the microphone.
A couple of points from the chat. Peter Cumpet has just commented the first para in Macquarie Bank's mission statement is to stay in business for the long term.
Yep.
And Steph has made the point, great point, start with your members. We need opportunity to meet and discuss ideas, like a day to come in and chat regarding the future.
Yeah, okay. I think, you definitely should. Yeah, definitely.
2014 was the last time that was done in any way. Nothing done since. Feedback session with SIG leaders, nothing documented. Okay, Steph.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think you guys, I feel like I've stirred up some passion amongst a few members. So we should definitely harness that passion and you guys should start talking about how you want to evolve. So then let's move on to then how can you evolve, right? How can you use customer value proposition in your journey of evolution? So customer value proposition, we've talked about kind of what it is in theory, but there is actually a simple tool created by a guy called Alexander Osterwalder, I think his name is, and he runs a consultancy in Switzerland called Strategizer. And what they do is they think about disrupting the traditional business models. So he started doing this as part of his degree, and he came up with a couple of models, one called the business model canvas and one called the value proposition canvas. And what they do is they kind of change the way we think about things. So a business model canvas is effectively a plan on a page. So you set out your entire business model right from your customer right down to the cost of servicing the customer on a single page, and that it kind of replaces a traditional business plan. You can use it as part of your business plan, but it's a really quick and easy way to just get some of your thinking down on paper and get it distilled. And so what we're talking about today is customer value proposition canvas. So this is the customer value proposition canvas. It's in two parts. The first part is actually the part that's on the right-hand side, which is a bit confusing. It's called the customer profile. And what you use that for is to, so actually you need to have a customer grouping in mind really to use it for. And then what you use it for is to analyze your customer. So with the customer profile, you describe, there are three sections. You start off with describing what are the jobs that your customers try to get done. So I don't know, can everyone, oh yeah, can everyone read that? And people online, can you read the text? Okay. So I'll fully describe it. Okay. So so starting off on the right side, the customer profile, you start off with the first section, which is the jobs. So jobs can be functional, like getting from A to B. They can be social, like impressing friends and colleagues, or they can be emotional, like gaining peace of mind. And what you do is you think about your customer in the context of the organisation that you're involved in, and the products and services or the key aims of the organisation, and you think about what are jobs that the customer does that we could help them with, and you just list it all out. So this is like analysing the customer and their customer behaviour. So you highlight your customer's and then the next section is you highlight your customer's pains, and those are the things that annoy customers whilst they're trying to get their jobs done. So if we go back to, say, the Thermomix, and then the customer might be a mum, and so then, or, let's call them a head of a household with a family. And so they need to provide healthy, nutritious meals to their children. So that involves a lot of things, like thinking about what you're going to cook, creating the shopping list, going and buying the ingredients, creating the recipe or finding the recipe, chopping up the veg or all the things that need to go in, and then cooking it in whatever form you want to cook it in if you're going to cook it. The Thermomix actually does most of that for you, aside I think from the shopping, but you can get your shopping delivered. Effectively what it does is it gives you the recipe. It's healthy and nutritious usually, so that you've got peace of mind that you're feeding your family something healthy and nutritious. You don't need to, you just lightly say peel the onions, peel the potatoes, chop up the veg or whatever, and then you chuck it all in. And then the machine knows, according to how you set it, exactly how long it's going to cook it for, whether it needs to stir it, whether it needs to do any chopping or whatever. And then after usually half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, your meal's ready to go. Meal for 4 people, ready to go. So quite phenomenal. And they've really thought about the value proposition for their target customer, because it takes most of the pains of all those things we just talked about out of preparing the meal, which is quite incredible. So that's the first lens, is the pains. The pains are any negative outcomes that customers hope to avoid. So things like dissatisfactions with current offerings and challenges, risks and obstacles related to a job. So just thinking about another really innovative thing where it was the business model that was innovated. If you think of Uber and was it rideshare and Lyft and all those organisations that do a similar thing, what they did was they actually took an existing model, a business model, which was the taxi service, so it's moving people from A to B, but they just disrupted the way that they did it, and they just made it way more convenient, and they took out the pain of having to go down to the taxi rank and wait for a taxi in the inclement weather, having to have cash in your pocket to pay the taxi driver and all those kind of things. They really thought about all the things that were painful with taxi service, and then where could they create or close the gap to enhance the offering to add huge value proposition to the customers. So, and then after you've done the pains, you outline customer gains, which are how customers measure a job is well done. So gains are positive outcomes that customers hope to achieve, like concrete results, benefits, and even aspirations. And then once you've got the customer profile, you use that profile to visualize and check your understanding of the people or the companies that you intend to create value for. So it's a map that becomes clearer the more that you learn about your customer, basically. And so you can evolve it over time. So you could start with, we could start doing, well, hopefully we will get time to start doing it, about 10 minutes. We'll start doing it. We'll start thinking about a customer, start with the members, what are some of the things that you want from the club, that's the jobs, and then what are some of the things that are currently paying for, what are some things that could be a gain for you. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. So once you've got that customer profile complete, the next stage to think about is for all the jobs, pains and gains, what solutions can you come up with to relieve pain, add gain, or to maybe offer a product or service that can do jobs for people. So the second part of the canvas is the value map. So that's the square bit. And that again has the three sections, and they map or they correlate onto the three sections from the customer profile. So with the value map, what you do is you list out any products and services that your value proposition builds on. So you describe ways in which the products and services and features are pain relievers and that's how they eliminate, reduce or minimize pains that customers care about. So you only want to focus on things that people care about that make their lives easier. And you also outline in which ways they are gain creators. So that's how they produce, increase, or maximize outcomes and benefits that your customers expect, desire, or would be surprised by. So actually surprise is one of the most successful elements. So if you can come up with any offerings that surprise and delight your customers, that's how you really attract people, because those are the talking points. And then the value map makes explicit how your products and services relieve the pains and create gains for your customer. And you use it to design, test, and iterate your value proposition until you figure out what resonates with the customers that you're trying to attract. And you create fit between the two, because you might, when you do the customer profile, have lots of different things on there, but you might not choose to service all of those things. So that's the important thing. It's knowing where you're going to play, and that's what the model helps you to decipher once you've worked through it. So, what I thought we'd do, so we'll leave that on the screen and we'll have a go at doing the canvas, right? So what we're going to do is I'll take the microphone with me and see if I can handle the microphone and writing and stuff. So what we're going to do then is I want, as members, you guys to shout out some things, which I'm going to write on a Post-it note and stick on the customer segment, right, around some of your reasons for being members. Let's start with that, your reasons for being members, like why are you a member? Like what kind of, let's call it jobs, but what does the membership satisfy for you? Yep. So put my glasses on. Okay, so yep, build let's say computer knowledge. Get information. Okay. Yep. Okay. Next. Who else has got something to offer? Yep. Yell it out. Yep. Okay. And what specifically about videoing? Was it the knowledge, the skill set? Was it equipment that the club can share? Or?
Well, I was interested in doing this stuff with videos so that teach the video competition.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Fraternity. Love it. Yep. Right. Any offerings from anyone online? So fraternity, I'm going to put up there, and I'm also going to put yours, Barry, which I'm going to distill down to specifically creating video content. Yep. which actually is very relevant to today. I actually, that could be, if anyone can help me to create some personal videos, I'd be most grateful. So creating video content. All right. Yep. What else?
Meeting other programmers.
Meeting other programmers. Yep. Yep.
Mark Anderson said, talks like this one. Thank you. Oh.
Sorry, what does that mean? Talks like this one.
Can you elaborate, Mark? Maybe unmute and speak.
And sorry, what was the other one that came in? Oh, workshops.
It's Mark Anderson. With respect to that one, I just meant this is so relevant to another organisation I belong to, and it's really given me a great deal of thought on how to organise or think about this other organisation I'm involved with.
Oh. Sorry, could you just repeat that? I found it very difficult to hear, sorry. Or did anyone else hear? Oh, needs this organisation. So, oh yeah, okay, so organisation, affiliation or something, yeah. Yep, okay. Yep. Yep. So, yep. 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 Okay. So a couple of points I think I might draw out of that. Building network. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yep. And technical support. Yep. What about friendships? Has anyone developed friendships from being a member of the MelbPC user group? Or? Yep. Yep. Oh, yep. Yep. You're right. There we go. All right. What else? Anything else?
We've got a few comments on chat,
Yep.
but I'm not sure who wants to put their hand up and speak or who to call out. So, Steph, would you like to say something? No. John Neal, would you like to repeat, or should I just read?
Can you hear me? It's Steph here.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh, yeah, we can hear.
It's Steph. Can you hear Steph?
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. In short language, what could make a difference for the club is that the club offers programs to upskill. So if someone wants to learn a program, if we run it periodically, they can come there and they're welcomed and they're invited to do and engage and learn what they want, so that they get something back. And we can come up with a range of activities that we figure through research, which is good in our industry and electronics and mechanics and stuff like that. So it becomes sort of offering programs, but to do the whole thing under a community basis, where once you've come in, joined, you've enjoyed learning something, you can then become a contributor with the club and helping newbies come in. And then the word will spread. This is a place to go to, and you get welcomed and you learn from it and you have a good experience. Contrast that with show and tell. Here we are really very tech here and we're brilliant. That era is gone. We've got to offer something. That's the value to the customer. That's it. Thank you.
Yep. No, thank you. Yeah, you really reiterated the message. It's all about offering something that's of value to your customer. And look, you guys have got great facilities here. So some of what you offer might not be what's traditionally been offered in the club. It might be something else, but that might be a reason to bring people into the club that then understand, that then know about you and understand, you know, how they can become members. Not everyone who comes through the club, by the way, needs to be a member. So, you know, today I think you had the council here running a hackathon. You know, you've got great facilities that can be used by the community, and you're in an area where you've got a huge community. So, yeah, you can start thinking about bringing people in through other means. Okay, have we got some more stuff online, Kirsten?
John Neal said something. John, would you like to unmute? Sean, would you like to unmute? Am I doing the right thing calling everyone out on chat? Anyway, they basically said lovely things.
Okay, great, all right. Well, why don't we, so we've just talked about a few of the jobs or things that people want to get out of it. So let's have a go at moving on then to pains, and let's do pains first. So what are some of the pains that are associated with any of these elements that we've already talked about? And that doesn't have to be stuff that's specific about the club, but that can be personal to you. So for example, we talked about building network, right? So when I was in a corporate job, I had a very corporate network, which didn't serve me well when I wanted to become a business coach, because I didn't know anyone out in the small business world. So I had no one that I could really refer customers to for specific things. Didn't really have a network of friends that understood what it was like being in business on my own either. And so that was a real pain for me, that, you know, I just didn't have that network of people that understood me, who I could build community with. Yeah, so think about some things like that, like, you know, actually getting the knowledge that you need now. So if you do want to create a video, how do you go and get the knowledge? I don't know. Do you Google it? And then if you Google it, do you find out, you know, the answers for what you really want? I'm not sure.
We've got a problem that it's nearly 8:05.
Yeah, my watch is just going off. Yeah.
And the problem is that what we're doing is worthwhile, and I think there's another hour to go, really, isn't there?
There probably could be now that we've started chatting. Yeah.
Now that we've started, and I think that we need to sort of call a halt. I'd leave you to have some closing remarks, but call a halt. But perhaps what we need to do is arrange another time when we can keep it going. What do you think, Kirsten?
Well, another time would be beautiful. Can I just read John Thompson's comment? Interactive two-way help and fellowship are the main benefits to me. I find the advent of Zoom has been a great benefit, as I am unable to attend most meetings in person. And a few more wonderful things been said. This has been the most useful speaker we've had in a long time. Thank you, Ron Brooks.
Okay, thanks for your kind words, everyone. Yeah, more than happy that we can just stop now, because you had a flavour of what this is all about, and then we can reconvene another time to actually work through it as a canvas. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Can I proposition you with an idea, Davinia?
Yeah, feel free.
I'm thinking of starting some daytime meetings, which will be strictly in the room, not on Zoom, because I want all you guys out there, wherever you are, to come in to the room and socialise a bit and have a cup of tea and we've got a nice coffee machine out there, and do it in the room, maybe a little bit more in a workshop sort of format.
Yeah, I think that would be really good if we want to pull a few people together, and then we could definitely do a proper workshop and take a few hours to analyse it and think about it and talk about it. If people are happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to. So yeah, anytime. Yep. All right, well, thanks very much for your time, everyone, and thanks very much for your kind words and feedback. And also, thanks for contributing to the conversation. It's been really great. But just to finish off then, I guess, so we've done the audience example. We'll talk about business model canvas another time, because I already touched on that is your kind of plan on a page, and the work that we do with the customer value proposition feeds into the business model canvas. And so then just to conclude, I think hopefully you've been able to see then the importance of knowing your value proposition, because it allows you to know the value of the products and services that you offer as an organisation. It helps to understand your customer segment and what your customers are wanting, and it ensures that you're prepared to defend and communicate your value, because you really understand what your value is as a club once you've done this work. And the benefits of understanding value leads into everything else that makes the organisation successful. And so that's really it. And so that's me, Davinia Upshall, business coach with Brainiact. There's my contact details, which I think the slides will be shared if anyone wants to contact me for a conversation. More than happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. Yeah, but if not, I'll pass back to Barry and he can conclude the proceedings. Thanks.
Well, Davinia, I sort of feel like the subject has been opened, and there's a structure there that could be followed to really get good value out of thinking about where we are and where we want to be. I like the headings of gains and pains. I think that's a really good focus. But the club needs to continue thinking about this, and our chairman's going to have to find some way in which we're going to do that. But for now, we have a value proposition for you. and just to say thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry. Well, I'm going to make this short and sweet because we're running a little bit over time and it lets me off the hook a little bit. First thing I'd like to say, Friday is the closing date, the deadline for committee nominations. So if you want to run for committee or to try and depose me as president, you've got until Friday to lodge your nomination. You need 2 counter signatures, so it takes a little bit of time to get it together. Right. A couple of things that have taken place. A weekend or 2 ago, we had a table at the Melbourne Society of Model and Experimental Engineers exhibition. And it was actually very successful. We showed off, I wasn't there, I had an engagement in here in the boardroom, but we showed off 3D printing, a lot of electronic gadgets and stuff, and there was a lot of interest. Mick, you were there on the stand. He's not listening. Oh,
yes, David, I was there.
Yeah.
It was a great turnout. A lot of people at our stall, a lot of flyers picked up for memberships, lots of inquiries. So hopefully we'll get some new membership from that. But it was a fantastic day to represent the club, and we had so many of our members going along and helping us display items of interest and works in progress and how to do Fusion 360 demonstrations, all sorts of things we're doing on our stall. And just a shout out to all the volunteers, all our club members that turned up on the day to help out. Fantastic effort.
Thank you. Much better than I could have done because I wasn't there. Other thing that we did there, I had negotiated. There's a company in Braeside, people who were doing sort of going to collaborate with us on 3D printers before COVID. That all sort of fell through during COVID or due to COVID. But they've just started making these little, very lifelike, sort of up to, I think about 30 centimeters high or something, 20 centimeters high, very lifelike 3D printed models of people. They put you in a big booth and they scan you and then you produce this print, and it's quite an expensive process, but I've negotiated for members to get a 25% discount on those figurines. And so for grandchildren, sending a model of the grandkids back to the Rellos in Europe or what have you, they're a great idea. So
I'd just like to speak to that, David. It was a great deal you made with those people.
Yep.
25% off for 12 months, no less. And we were speaking that on the weekend at the expo, that it's actually cheaper if you want that product to join our club first. It's a little bit of a hook we drew out of that.
Yeah, very deliberate malice of forethought with that one. Okay, another couple of things. We've been running a Coder Dojo, which is coding for kids kind of workshops on sort of every other Saturday or something like that. The person who's been running those is withdrawing. He's a young father, and he's got young child. So if there's anyone out there in the membership who would like to run coding for kids, please let us know. Just email me as president@melbpc.org.au. And we'd love to have someone who enjoys working with kids like that. You will need a working with kids clearance. What's it called? Check. Little card, yeah. The CNC project is still going well. On Sunday, we had a little session in here in the room with designing a part for the CNC machine using Fusion 360. That was quite interesting. So that's proceeding. Mick is still, I think, preparing to do some 3D printing workshops eventually. And I'm getting all prepared to do some workshops on Arduino / microcontrollers. And that will be open, of course, to all members. And it's going to be short and sharp sessions where we make a thing on the day in 2 or 3 hours. So it won't be in-depth training. It'll be a sort of getting some quick fun out of using actually an ESP32, which is a very, very powerful microcontroller. And finally, we have been offered and accepted some furniture from the Kingston Council, which we're going, there's a couple of couches and a nice low coffee table, which I think we will probably set up here in the Borrett room, just to add a sort of slightly more socializing aspect to what we can do here in the club. And that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, David. The next item on the agenda is something different, and Michael Adams, who's our Vice President, has got a segment called Show and Tell about your passion. And I don't know what that's about, but I'm sure Michael's about to tell us. Oh, you didn't.
Thanks, Barry. All preparation aside, I had this presentation up on my screen during the intermission, and of course the laptop wasn't plugged in. So it has gone flat, and I'm waiting for it to reboot to show you my presentation. So the worst that could go wrong did go wrong. That's why they call me Mick Murphy. But hey, this segment's about getting to know our members and what else drives them other than our club. And it was kind of my idea to do a show and tell, and here I am at the inaugural with a lousy presentation. So I was going to talk about a project that I've been working on with my kids. Just a second. It's rebooting and it's not doing it fine. So I don't have pictures. That's terrible. It's booting up, but it's taking forever. So I cannot show you the pictures. So I'm just going to talk for 10 minutes. Yay. We all think that's great, don't we? No, I talk a lot when I'm nervous, and here we are. I was going to talk about a project that I've been working on and off for 15 years nearly. I bought a little kid's ride-on car at a garage sale for $50, and it needed new batteries, and thought that's really cool. My kids will love that. And I kind of live vicariously through my kids because I grew up poor and I didn't have toys like that. if I wanted cool toys, I had to get my dad to make them. And my dad was great at making stuff. So I learned a little bit from him. And I became a tinkerer at a very early age, tinkering with all sorts of things in my dad's workshop. I watched him weld and teach my brother to weld, and I thought one day I'm going to do that. And so when I was 35, I wanted a thing built, and it was kind of up to me to build it. So I borrowed a welder and I built it. It held up well considering I'd never welded before, but it was a challenge, and I thrive on challenges. And you know, if somebody says it can't be done, I'll find a way. My screen is coming to life, but I still don't have my File Explorer yet, so bear with me. So anyway, I bought this car from the garage sale. I put batteries in it, and of course my kids loved it. Moving forward, my wife and I separated. The car didn't get worked on for a long time. Eventually I got it back. It needed batteries again. It needed some rewiring, and I thought, to hell with it, you know what, I'm going to modify it. And I made it into a four-wheel drive instead of a two-wheel drive, and I sourced a rusty old quad bike off a bloke and cut the suspension out of it and adapted it to this machine. So it had quite interesting four-wheel drivey kind of suspension, and it was a four-wheel drive. But it was all run through switches and relays because that's all I knew. That's what I taught myself, and that's how I did it. However, fast forward, I came across this wonderful club called MelbPC User Group, and I met a few other tinkerers and makers. And so I learnt about Arduinos. So my photo's about to show, please. Come on. Here we go. This is the machine the day I bought it when it comes up. It's a Peg Perigo brand, built in Italy roughly 30 years ago, possibly the only one of its kind in Australia. And when I got it, oh golly gosh, why do things open like that? I built a trailer for it, put his little electric trike on there, and we used to drive down the park. My son was driving that. He was probably 4 years old in this video. And he was a great driver. He could actually reverse that trailer around a corner. He was very clever. But the mechanics and electronics in it died. You know, it wasn't really, the wiring wasn't up to scratch. We put heavier wire, put the 4 motors on it. There's a first iteration of the front suspension that I designed from scratch. I don't have an engineering mind, but apparently I do. I was never an engineer, just a truck driver, but making toys out of things. So there's just some photos showing the articulation of the suspension, and on the front there is a winch that I built out of a broken jigsaw. My brother gave to me, and I just cobbled that together, and the winch worked well. My kids loved it. We put police lights on it. My first venture into making something out of electronics using capacitors and resistors, and I made myself an A-stable multi-vibrator to make these flashing lights, which I thought was really cool. Later iterations, it was all through a microcontroller. And that's that vehicle. It's sat for a long time unused because it had a minor breakdown and I didn't know about it. Got it going again, repainted it. We were going to present it at the Maker Fair a couple of years ago, but one of the wheels broke and I couldn't get another wheel. So I've abandoned that project and moved it on. Somebody else owns that now. And so I started a new project whilst I was working on that one, because my my eldest son, he wasn't into cars, trucks, motorbikes or anything. He didn't even like riding in the blue car, but you saw him in there. He was loving it. And on the way home one day he said, "Dad, can you build me a truck?" And I said, "Okay, why not?" So I started very, very basic, using stuff I had lying around the backyard. I formed somewhat of a truck cabin, and plastic bits off other little electric cars found on hard rubbish. And there's my mock-up. And then I started working with fiberglass. Never worked with fiberglass before, but you know, it can't be that hard. It was fun. It was messy, but we got the process moving and it's starting to look more like a truck. It was going to be single axle rear end and it was going to be a tow truck. But as projects are, and I'm sure a lot of people listening and watching can relate to this, that projects often get bigger and bigger and bigger and often not completed. So I went from previous bits and pieces of chassis off other vehicles to making my own chassis, putting springs on the back for some suspension, hand fabricated the steering wheel with some flat steel and wrapped it with rope, made headlights buckets out of cheese boxes just because I could. And so this is kind of the stage where this particular piece of machinery is at. And it's been in hiatus for about 5 years because I live in a small apartment now and I don't have a workshop anymore. But in my previous residence, I did work on it inside. And I plastered over the top of the fiberglass to eventually form a perfect styling body that I can then take a fiberglass mould from. The idea being that this thing's going to be 100%. It was originally going to be modelled off a truck that I drove at the time, and my boss was going to pay for the paint job, to sign write it exactly like the truck I drove, and we're going to take both of them to truck shows. Didn't happen, but I've still got this, and one day I'll finish it. That actually, I didn't mean to flick past to there, but that was the start of the steering wheel. That was the bit of flat metal, and there's a weld, and that's just showing that it penetrated from the other side. Not bad for a beginner. And so it went on. Some stuff I found at a $2 shop to wrap it in to make it look nice and sparkly. And then here's the tail lights for the truck that I made out of resin. Getting some plastic drinking cups, pour a little resin in, wait for that to go off, drop some LEDs in there with the wires on them, fill it up with resin, done. And then they somewhat resembled the actual truck that I was driving at the time, which was pretty cool. I had to make a windscreen frame, so I used that blue car that you saw earlier. I took the windscreen frame off that and took a mould of it. And there's the truck's windscreen above and the original car one below, with the mirror wings left off it. So I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. I didn't know how to weld. I didn't know how to do electronics. I didn't know how to do fiberglass. But I had a want, and you know what they say, necessity is the mother of invention. It's kind of like that. I didn't have the budget to go and buy something or get somebody to build it for me bespoke. I just knew that if I had to have it, I had to make it. And so I have to learn those skills. And now I'm a member of a club of people that share their knowledge and their skills and work together on projects. And I'm in the happiest place in my life. And one day I want to bring this truck to this club and let's finish it. Because that's the best chance I'm going to have to finish it. But this is an example of what you can do at Show and Tell. You can have a slideshow ready and do it from Zoom, or you can come in here and speak about your passions. It doesn't have to be technology at all. It could be about steam engines or knitting or macrame, whatever. Come and tell us your story and get to know you. Thank you very much.
Michael, thank you for that. Kirsten, are we going to make Show and Tell a regular monthly? Mike, are you going to answer the question? Yeah.
This is to all club members. We've got two choices. Somebody can step up and do the next one next month, or you'll be back hearing from me.
Okay, well, I'm speaking for myself. I found that very interesting, and it's fascinating what you're capable of doing if you've got a passionate about it. And if you've got the passion, you really want to do something, you can learn how to do just about anything, can't you? It was interesting. 20 years ago now, I left employment. I was with a company for 29 years and we sort of separated, and it was their fault, not mine, of course. But I decided I had to be a consultant, and people came to me and said, Barry, would you do this for me? Would you do that for me? And it's all stuff that I thought, no, I don't know anything about that. And they said, you soon will. But I was keen to make a go of it, and did, and kept it going for 10 years, living out of that and my severance money and superannuation from 29 years of employment with another company all went into a self-managed super fund. So it was very good. But if you really, but I had no idea about doing anything in terms of management consulting or business consulting. But if you want to, you can do anything if you're really passionate about it. And Michael's got a whole lot of skills that he probably had before but didn't know about it. That's what I found. I had a whole lot of skills that I hadn't identified, and it's probably the same with just about anybody. You know, they come out if there's a reason. Anyway, enough of that. We move now on to iHelp, and Bert Ehrlich hopefully is there somewhere.
I am. Okay. All right. I was getting a bit concerned about my presentations at iHelp because I was thinking, was I talking about the right things, etc. So I looked back on a few of the previous meetings to see what some of our other iHelp members talked about. So I think, yeah, I was thinking it was to stick to that subject, but we can talk around it a bit. So I'm going to talk around it a bit. I think I'm probably the least qualified to be on iHelp. I think there's so many guys there that really know stacks more than I do, but I can help people who are fairly basic in their computers, which I do quite often, and I actually enjoy helping them. It's great. Recently, I helped somebody, and I couldn't believe, how basic his knowledge was. He didn't know about cut and paste. I've never seen such a thing. So anyway, I had to show him how to cut and paste, and he thought it was wonderful. He didn't have to type so much. So that was pretty good. So that's one of the experiences I've had. I have spoken about my 99-year-old. Well, he's become a friend, although he's now forgotten me. He's in care, and he's getting very close. Next month will be his 100th. Hopefully he'll make it. But yeah, unfortunately, his mental condition has really deteriorated. And I've met up with him, but he doesn't recognise me. He has trouble even recognising his wife, and he doesn't recognise his children. I mean, they're about 55 or something. So anyway, he's.
Are you saying that he recognises his computer?
No, he was having trouble with his computer towards the end. I was helping him, so no, he wasn't having fun with that, unfortunately. The trouble was that Windows was changing things on his computer. He was running Windows 10. He was quite familiar with that, and all of a sudden it went to Windows 11, and yeah, so he then didn't know where a lot of the things were, and I had to find them for him, and for him to try and learn all those aspects was pretty difficult. But anyway, that's that friend who was great. But this other guy I was just helping recently, he was trying to send some documentation to the bank, and the other thing that I was a bit surprised at, I've never heard of such big files. You have to send 3 pages of a document to close his loan and get all his paperwork back for his mortgage, and he had each one of these PDF files was about 20 megabytes. I don't know, they were like, you know, photographs of the thing. They weren't PDFs, but somehow they were still labeled PDFs. Anyway, he had a lot of issues with that, but we finally got them done. He also wasn't that familiar with Quick Assist, so you know, just trying to get him to connect to that and get it on. But it was great, you know. He really appreciated it, and he actually rang me the other day to say that the bank told him they only got one document out of the three, so 1 page of the document. So he's got to arrange to send them another copy. Anyway, that was another one of our typical, not typical, but many people that we help. Now, when we talk about the many that we help, I looked at some of the statistics that go back, and Harry Lewis, you probably all know him, had prepared. But I thought it'd be interesting to see how things have changed. At the end of 2022, I was able to go back that far. We had a total of 851 members that we helped, and the number of members that were involved was 378. So we had it roughly, for every member they contacted that had contacted us, they'd contacted us twice. That was based on averages. In some cases, we have some of our members we're helping 5 or 6 times a year, and others we just have them the once, and it mightn't be for a couple of years. In the end of 23, we had a total of 258 members. So that you can see the drop in the numbers, and 60 who had called us 3 times. There was a bit more detail in the statistics, and 60 who called us 3 times or more, and accounted for over half of the total tickets, as he put it. We had a top scoring member who approached us 18 times during the year. So he got his money's worth. And then in the last year, 2023, we had a total of, let me see, I've lost it for the time being. No, sorry, that was the last one. Yeah, that's right. This is now back into 2024. So the figure up to date for 2024 is 345. So we've got a few extra compared to the previous year. But I guess statistics will fluctuate a bit. And there was 180 members involved in that. So the ratio of 2 to 1 seems to be holding fairly steadily. Anyway, that was one of the aspects I was going to talk to you about. The other thing I was going to mention, one of the other groups that I'm volunteering with, that I've spoken a couple of times about before, was the prostate support groups. I look after the Box Hill prostate cancer support groups. And don't forget, all you guys, there's a lot of men in our group. You should all get your PSA tested. It makes a big difference. If they can catch your prostate cancer before it metastasizes, it makes a big difference to your success and the sort of treatment you've got to get. So make sure you get tested. You don't need to get this finger, up the bum type of test. You just need to get a blood test. So next time you get a blood test for whatever other thing you need, just include PSA tests. And if you're not getting a blood test for anything else, make sure you do. If you're over 50, and I think that's a good proportion of our members are over 50. At 50, you should get at least one test to give you a bit of background, because the the main thing that will indicate any problems will be an increase in that PSA. If there's a very sharp increase, then things can indicate that you may have prostate cancer. Doesn't always mean you got prostate cancer, but the test is getting better. They're sort of fine-tuning that PSA test, and it's much more sensitive to get the test. This is a bit uncomfortable. I keep seeing myself. Change the view, I think. The other thing I was going to say was that, about this group. It was decided that our group, instead of me taking all the calls from new members that were looking for support, we thought it'd be very good. It's very good of the other guys to get a mobile phone that we could share. So instead of just having the one number, where they called me, we would get a mobile phone which I could have a rest and pass it on to someone else, and then we would advertise this mobile phone number as being our contact number. Now that seems simple, right? Just buy a mobile phone, buy a SIM card, get it allocated, and you're off. You try and get you try and get a SIM card to a group. It's impossible. In the end, I still had to get the mobile phone registered in my name, but I had the passwords and other things that were related to it, all related to our Box Hill Prostate Group. So anyway, I think they understood that. You can also get a mobile phone number if you're a company with an ABN. So we really didn't want to go down that path because there are a lot of other aspects about that problem, about that option. If anybody else is in other groups or in, whatever, they want to set up a mobile phone for that group, I'd love to know if someone can do it without having to specifically have a person, because you had to have identity, you had to have your Medicare card or your driver's license. And the other thing I found too, when you give them your driver's license, they ask you for a particular number that's on the driver's license. Now it must be on the newer driver's license. Mine's now about 9 years old, but it doesn't have some particular number which is on the front of the card. I mean, it's got a driver's license number, but there's some other number. And because I couldn't give them that, they said, oh, well, we can't use it. So at least the Medicare card number worked.
Bert,
yes.
It's on the back and it's in the finest print you could imagine.
Let me have a look. Well, I really don't believe it because I was looking and looking. I tell you,
it's only on the new.
It's
only on the new
one. Yeah, I think so.
It's only on the new licenses.
Yeah, I think so. There's a scan on the back of the license, but there's no number attached to that scan, and I don't have a scanner that'll give me what that number is. So I don't know if that's the number or not. Anyway, that's part of it. Thank you.
We've hit 9 o'clock. Can you sort of
wind up?
Bring it to a conclusion.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll stop the recording, and the Q&A can keep going as long as you and others are happy for it to do so.
Yeah, okay. Well, I really liked that last speaker. I was really in awe of everything that he did to get himself to make those cars and truck at the end. We built our own house, and that's another story altogether. So maybe I can do that as a show and tell. Anyway, thank you very much. The other thing I think we need, just very quickly, it's great that we've got a 3D printer. I had a 3D printer. It's got a lot of issues, and anyway, I ended up selling it. But what you really need to do 3D printing is a 3D scanner. If you could please look at getting 3D scanner. That is something that the average person can't get because they're much more expensive than a 3D printer.
The recording is stopped now.
Thank you. So, all right. So a 3D scanner, I think, would be great. I don't know who, maybe I can suggest that too, to make it a bit more formal, but I think that would be a great point. I don't know if there's other people in the group tonight that might look at that. But yeah, so that's something else that we should really be looking at. Can I get other people who may agree with that to, I don't know how you can get feedback on those sort of things.